brilliant. It's Easter, or approaching Easter, so I thought it was a great excuse to have a bit of a celebration. So I made this earlier, and hopefully we'll all get some. But who would like to cut it? Jonah, come on in. Sorry? So we'll give him a 3, 2, 1. If you stab it in the middle, then we'll all get some then. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Well. Sorry, that looked so good, didn't it? Well, to me it did from here. I had jelly tots and everything on it. I couldn't find any Smarties. Sorry about that. I could taste sugar now. We should have done a health and safety thing on this, I think. Okay. So it was something that looked really good on the outside, and it didn't deliver much, did it? Apart from a load of dust and Jonah getting in trouble with his mum because he's covered in sugar now. Be followed by bees on the way home. But it reminded me of one of the passages in Matthew's Gospel. There are so many things that kind of look good on the outside, but end up delivering very little. And Jesus says this. He's encouraging people not to worry. It's in Matthew 6, and he says, "And why do you worry about clothes? See the flower of the fields, how they grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry," he says, saying, "What shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But this is the bit. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." I was struck the other day by adverts on the TV. Adverts drive me bananas because they're every kind of, when I was, younger, back then, when it was like Gaslight and Horse and Carts, it was the adverts came on every quarter of an hour, and you could go out and make a cup of tea and then come back in. But now they're every so many minutes you get, and the nearer you get to the end of the program, the more adverts. And you're just blasted with constant stuff that you need, that you want. It's the latest phones, the latest phone deal, it's the latest shoes, it's whatever it is. And it all looks good, and you can end up chasing your tail. You guys are not that far off of kind of work. Some of you got part-time stuff now. But there's that kind of chasing the dollar. Get the next job with the more money in the car and the whatever. But it's just a reminder, really, that there are more important things. And God knows that we need money, He knows that we need a roof over our head. He knows that we need food to eat. But the real thing is to seek his kingdom and his righteousness. And I found that that is a tough thing to do in the workplace, but it pays off in the end. There was a time I was I used to be in contracting, doing refrigeration and air conditioning before working in this role. And there was a time when I was an apprentice, and we were going to go away to work away from Bristol. And it was good working away because you're allowed to book extra time. And what the guys did, they used to fiddle the expenses, because the credit cards weren't really there in those days. They had a great wad of cash. And the more dodgy receipts they could get for things they didn't buy, the more money they could pocket. And one day I was due to go away with this guy on a job. And he said, "Oh, I've got my printing kit." He actually had a printing kit in his van, so he could print receipts and get his wife to sign them, so he could fiddle the expenses. And I said, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not," and I was fudging it. And he said, "What is it you're trying to say?" He said, "If you don't want to fiddle the expenses, just say." And I said, "Right, I don't want to fiddle the expenses." And he said, "Right, thank you for that." And then he walked from the workshop down to the office. I got called in the office. I got pulled off the job and he went with somebody else. And people refused to work with me to go away because I wouldn't fiddle the expenses. And it was like that for over a year. So I didn't get any overtime. I didn't get any extra money. I was on bare minimum stuff because I wouldn't fiddle the expenses. But eventually, they came round. I didn't move. People moved. So the thing was the Lord's righteousness to do the right thing. So the bosses knew I was going to do the right thing, although they were in on the fiddle as well. But they knew eventually I would do the right thing and I wouldn't fiddle them. And the guys knew that I wouldn't fiddle and I wouldn't cheat them either. And so gradually they came round. It took about 18 months before anyone would work with me again. But they came round. And some of those guys I actually started a company with. And they've been lifelong friends. So I just want to encourage you. When the pressure's on to chase after stuff, right, and it looks so good, looks so promising. What's a few bob, fiddle the expenses? Actually, I might move, get a better car, get a better office, get a better working hours, whatever it is. There are more important things. And the most important thing is to seek the Lord's righteousness. What is right in his eyes, and so that his kingdom can be built in our lives and through our lives. Work is a tough place to be a Christian. School is a tough place to be a Christian. But stick to your guns. Pursue the Lord's righteousness. And eventually people will come round. Some won't. But what you'll do is earn respect. Eventually. Eventually. It took 18 months for me on that particular issue. On other issues, it took longer. But people came round. So I just want to encourage you, the words of Jesus. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all the other things will find their right place. You won't care about them as much as you did if your focus is on the Lord and what is right in his eyes. Okay? So thank you for listening. Sorry, Jonah, about the sugar on your coat, and the bees will now follow you on the way home. They will me as well, actually. And I'll get a vacuum and clear this up.